We are live with Sara Tippett and myself, Allyson McQuinn. I'm a doctor of Heilkunst medicine based out of Canada, and I've been doing this for patients around the world for the past 17 and a half years. And Sara has very graciously offered to join me today. She's all the way in Texas, and I'll let her introduce herself and talk a little bit about how she came to Heilkunst.
Hello, yeah, my name is Sara Tippett, and I am a mom of two kiddos, 10 and 7, and came to Heilkunst because I was trying to find a better path for myself and my family. And I found Allyson, and she has guided us on a path to healthy living, not just from what we put in our bodies, but what we put in our minds, and just shown us a way to live healthfully and happily.
Thank you. That's awesome, Sara. Yeah, and it's actually interesting. Back in 24, 25 years ago, same thing. I came to Heilkunst system of medicine. I had a son who was vaccine damaged in the autism spectrum as a result, only passing stool once every 2 weeks, hospitalized 7 times, once had the impacted stool removed from his body manually under general anesthetic. And, everything rocking back and forth, not making any eye contact, no speech after a delayed MMR vaccine at 15 months. So I've become a big advocate as a result, speaking to really the cautionary measures of using more homoprophylactic approaches, using homeopathic principles without causing an ounce of harm as a result. So today, Sara and I are going to kick it off and talk a little bit about aspects of Heilkunst medicine that maybe aren't as well known. And these are forays that she's made in for herself and for her family. So I'm excited to hear what questions she has. And yeah, we usually have a great rowdy banter online together on Skype on a periodic basis. And so today we just thought that we would share some of that with y'all and see.
I like how you threw that y'all in there.
I know, I'm getting better. It's not y'all. I'm doing the y'all. Yeah.
It was pretty
See,
smooth.
I am trainable. Yeah. And I'm ordering my tea sweet now, just so
Y'all gonna get that up there in Canada, right?
That's right, with a little bit of stevia, not sugar. Just to be clear. Awesome. So Sara, tell me when you first came to really this approach to natural medicine, natural living, natural health. What was it that you first started to work with regards to concepts in your kitchen and such?
Yeah, way back in my history now, even before my kids were born, it originated in a skincare product a friend told me about, and she started telling me about all these chemicals and everything that was in most of them, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that kind of stuff would be in there. And so that just kind of started me down a path. And I was actually just thinking about this yesterday, that we could put all the blame on my husband, because he always he turned me into a researcher. He always researched, well, he still does research everything. And so he would always tell me, tell me your reasons why you want it, or you want to purchase something, and make a list for me, and then we'll go from there. And so I think it all started kind of like with Amazon reviews. Reading on the Amazon reviews, and then it branched out to books and information and blogs and everything like that. But yeah, now that I think back at it, I almost think it kind of started with my son. After I first had him, it was really important to me to breastfeed, and I'd read a great book about breastfeeding. So I was all ready to go afterwards, or after he was born. And with my son and my daughter, I developed thrush with both of them. And yeah, and just the thought, all the doctor had to give me was a antifungal cream that might or might not work, and that just didn't make sense to me. So I was just like all over the computer trying to find something that would work, and it made breastfeeding very difficult in those critical early weeks when I know a lot of moms just get so frustrated and give up. But I guess my stubbornness went out, and I was like, I will do this. I don't care what I have to do. I will do this. And yeah, we found some more natural solutions than a prescription medication. And just after that, like all my friends were having babies and stuff around the same time I was, and they would ask me for advice on and tips about what was going to happen at the hospital and everything. And I just remember always telling them, you just have to trust yourself that you know yourself. Quit putting all your faith in someone else, a doctor or nurse or whatever. Well, they know a ton of information. Trust yourself. Women have been having babies for generations, and believe me, that was not the way that I was raised. So it was kind of like, I don't know where that thought came from, but that was my advice to everyone. Trust yourself, trust yourself, trust yourself. Read as much as you can. And yeah. And then in the kitchen, I had read somewhere, I think a friend had told me raw milk was really good. A lot of babies had a lot of success with raw milk. And so I found a dairy that was only about 20 minutes away from me that had raw goat's milk. And she started telling me about all the babies in this area. And I live in a major metropolitan area that had been such healthy babies on their milk. And yeah, raw milk was probably my first step into the raw food revolution
Yeah,
that
very
has
cool.
become our kitchen.
Yeah, I ran a raw milk co-op with 15 families. I won't mention the province I was living in because it is considered a legal practice. However, yeah, women, children, we banded together. We were, a beautiful cooperative, and we'd go out. We own a cow share, so we owned the cow, and yeah, went out and picked up our raw milk, and our 15 families took turns going out south of the city about an hour and a half to pick it up and bring it back, because it was that important to us, to have raw food available. Pasteurization destroys the enzymes in the milk, making it very difficult to break down. There are certain, my husband's an O blood type, so he doesn't really do as well on raw milk, but he does better on raw goat's milk, because goat's milk is more doable and manageable, because it's a smaller molecular structure. It grows a smaller animal. So if you think of our babies or children, goats are just smaller in stature, and so it's easier to assimilate goat's milk typically for babes. And Weston Price recommends, a mixture of raw goat's milk and liver, just to get them up and started. Want a large, good fat content with beautiful enzymes there to break it down easily. So that's kind of a big part of my history. I wrote a book called, my 35-day fast on raw goat's milk was kind of crazy. I'd not been nursed as a baby, so I really wanted to go back and find out what I would feel like nursed. So it was a grand experiment. I didn't expect to, publish that piece, but I kept journals and woke up parts of myself, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. And by the end of the 30 days, I didn't want to quit the fast. I kept going because I felt so darn good. Goats are ridiculously silly, and I was way too serious a person, always constantly researching, doing a PhD and writing books and stuff. And life was a serious game for me. So when I started the raw milk cleanse, I became, almost ridiculously silly and haven't really gone back to my old self. Kept that part of the silly goats in me. So yeah, it can have some very strange consequences that you don't anticipate.
I think
But
I
as a
need to try
result, I
that.
have goats. I have goats named after me all over the United States and Canada as a result of that book. Yeah, funny.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So I actually, when I just texted you, I realized I had a message left over. You had sent me a wee missive in Facebook Messenger that showed me a picture of your raw starter for sourdough.
Oh,
So I thought, yeah, that's so cool. You and I, engage on this level. I'm, like you, big into kombucha and kefir, raw sauerkraut. As soon as we live in Mexico in the winter months, and as soon as we land there in Mexico, we make sure that we start our sauerkraut right away because it takes a good 3-4 days for it to start to have about 90,000 or 90 trillion, positive bacteria as per Dr. McCullough. So yeah, I know you're
yes.
also a big fermenter as well.
Yes, and started it up again. I kind of took a break the last year or two. I made sourdough. That was one of the first things I did, and then I let my sourdough culture die and everything. And that picture you were talking about, I never did get it back to life. I should have waited to order it from the place. It was just too hot. It was still,
You
like
tried CPR and
I
everything?
CPR'd that thing. I had a 25-pound bag of flour. It was not full. But I was
Oh,
like, I'm almost out of flour. I think but I was just thinking, it's actually fall here. I think it's only like
yeah.
62 degrees right now. So I think I'm safe to
Whoa,
order
that's a
it.
plummet from your
I
90
know,
all
it's so
summer.
great. Fall
Hmm.
is here in Texas. We get really excited about that. And anyway, so I'm going to start that again. Yes, my family is not totally on board with my cultured vegetables, but I can get them to have the milk kefir, or how do you say it?
Yes.
I,
Kefir, kefir, both, I think. Yeah,
I guess I
swing
say
either
it
way.
Southern. I say kefir. And my daughter will eat some of my sauerkraut, but I just made a great one off of the Cultures for Life website. One of her recipes. I think it was the Christmas kraut. Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
yeah.
it is so good. It has dried cranberries in it and
Oh,
orange
wow.
juice. It is delish. I mean, I can just, especially since I'm one of the few people that eats it in the house, because, well, if the others would
Yeah.
just give it a try, they would really like it.
So it's a
But
salt brine, cranberries,
yes,
and
mm-hmm.
orange juice.
Yeah, and it
Yeah.
has you dice up some apple in it too, so it has the prebiotics in it too. But I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it when
Awesome.
I tasted it. I was like, oh my gosh, I just,
Yeah.
open up the
So the
jar and use
juice
a
of a
spoon.
raw orange, is that about
Mm-hmm.
the proportion? Yeah.
Yeah, you do about the juice of one orange and put it in there, and cabbage. It's like half a head of cabbage, and it made about I think my jar was about 2.5, 3. It holds about 3 cups, I think, of stuff.
Wow.
But oh, it's so good, so good.
Sounds amazing.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
My
really good.
favorite one is done with jalapeno peppers. I
Ooh,
love that. Yeah.
yum.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like
And
to
in
do.
Mexico, that's a good one. That's an easy one to do because jalapeno peppers are everywhere.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do the salsa because, here in Texas, I mean, salsa is a way of life. Um,
Yeah.
and since I'm a B blood type, tomatoes are not my friends, but I'm having a hard time accepting that. and and so I'm like, well, I'll just do some fermented salsa. And but this last batch, I did learn wear gloves when you de-seed that
Mm.
jalapeno. I got jalapeno fire all over my hands for
Oh
like
my
hours. It
gosh.
was like I was crying. I tried like
Yeah.
every natural remedy.
Did I tell you about the time that Jeff went to the washroom after de-seeding some jalapeno peppers? And the
No,
next morning, his
no.
contact that he'd taken out the night before was still on fire. Yeah. Yeah.
No, well, thank God. I mean, it is a small miracle that I did not touch my eyes or anything. And then I was telling a friend about it before I took my contacts out, and she said, get some latex gloves and take your
Yeah,
contacts out.
smart.
So a little
Smart.
tidbit that does work.
Yeah, they were the little red habaneros, so they were screamingly hot. I remember that.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
just about rearranged his whole privates. He's going to be thrilled when he watches this.
I know. I had another mother come over and pick up her son from our house, and like I took a break from what I was doing that was helping my hands some, but like I was like, please stop talking, please go. My hands are getting hotter and hotter and hotter.
Oh, yeah. I'm wondering if
Anyway,
the
so
homeopathic remedy Cantheris would be helpful at that moment.
yes, I didn't know it the top of my head, but yes, so that has helped me with still eating some tomatoes here in
Yeah.
Texas and some salsa.
Tell me about your relationship with bone broth.
Love bone broth. Um, yeah, it's so easy to make. I found a local farmer here that, I mean, it takes me about 15 minutes to drive there. And I can text them or email them and ask them for some marrow bones. I always ask them for marrow bones and meaty bones.
Hmm.
And they hooked me up for really a good price. And I come home and I use the Weston A price um,
Recipe.
recipe. Yeah, it's on their website. They have a really good book all about broth. And I do beef bones all
Yeah.
the time because I'm a B blood type, and so beef is better for my blood type. And I have an Instant Pot, which is an electric
Yes. Lovely.
pressure cooker.
Hmm.
And so I do it in there. It only takes, I usually do one cycle on the Instant Pot is 120 minutes or 2 hours. And I usually do two cycles. And then you can reuse especially the marrow bones.
Yes.
Um, Use them a couple of times. I just put them in the freezer. And I actually, if you follow the recipe, which you can find it on the Weston A Price website, um, after it's all done and the pressure is released and you open the lid and everything, I use the simmer feature on the Instant Pot and I boil it down to, I don't know, I think it's usually, I don't know how much it is, but I boil it down quite a bit. And then I pour it in ice cube trays and
Yes. You'd be
freeze it
right
in the
down almost to the
freezer.
collagen.
Yeah, exactly. And so it takes up way less space. And so then you have to pop them out of the ice cube trays. And it goes back to my homemade baby food making days, the ice cube trays do.
Yeah.
So it's like an old friend. And then I put them in the big Ziploc baggies in the freezer. And whenever I want to have a cup of bone broth, I just
Yeah, that's
take out
brilliant.
like, I don't know, anywhere from 4 to 6 of them, add a little bit of water with it, add salt. I like to add pink Himalayan salt, good
Yep.
salt.
88
And
minerals.
mm-hmm, and and heat it up on the stove top, not in the microwave,
Yep.
and drink it. I drink it like it's a mug of tea or something. And,
Mm.
sometimes it has that nice layer of fat on it. Sometimes it
So
doesn't.
fortifying. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think it tastes great because the broth is
Yes.
always one of my favorite parts of the soup.
Calms my whole nervous system down. If I've had like a really wily, crazy day in clinic or it's been really busy, a cup of bone broth, and it just feels like everything just
Hmm.
calms right down. It's like fills in all those gnarly, central nervous system flashes. Yeah.
Yes. And it
It's
makes your hair
awesome.
grow really long too.
Yeah.
Really. And your nails, I mean, my nails
Yeah,
have
are
never been,
beautiful.
I used to
Hmm.
have nails that had major ridges in them and they are like so smooth now. It is
Yeah.
it is crazy. And
It's like a miracle. And teeth, like I have patients who have had incredible pitted teeth, caries, cavities, and they'll do a couple months of bone broth and make sure there's no glycerin in the toothpaste. And often they'll just make their own with coconut oil and bentonite clay, with the food grade bentonite clay, a bit of baking soda, again, non-aluminum, and a little bit of peppermint oil. And by making sure there's no glycerin, because that's a barrier between your mineralization and your teeth, and then the bone broth, you can really get quite a distance in remineralizing your teeth. A lot of people don't realize that. And unless you're seeing a biological dentist, the dentist won't tell you that it's even possible. But I mean, bone is teeth and bone. I don't know why teeth dentists and osteopaths or bone doctors are all separated. They really need to commune and get together and talk about the fact that, there are ways to serve our patients that enable them to actually regrow their bone through proper regimen.
Yes, because I know I brought it up with dentists too, and they just they tell me, I've had lots of people try that and it never works. I mean, they just are, you can tell they haven't looked into it at all. Or the ones that I've spoken
But they've already decided.
Yes. Yes. So, when I mention that to people, everybody's always surprised. They're like, what?
Yeah.
And, I even, recommended the tissue salts for my sister, and she gave it to all three of her kids because they'd all had bad cavities ever since. I mean, ever since they were babies, they had really bad teeth. And I remember her texting me after a dental appointment, and she was like, we are all singing your praises because for the first time since I don't know when, nobody had any cavities at all.
Awesome. So that's Highlands Bio 12 tissue salts based on Dr. Schussler's research and work on remineralization. They are homeopathic, so you can't cause harm. I remember once my daughter had swallowed an entire bottle and my mother-in-law was babysitting, and I got a frantic call. Okay. And I got a frantic call at work. And I was like, no, it's okay. It's okay. They're homeopathic. She was like, well, what's that? I said, don't worry about it. She's okay. You don't have to rush her to the hospital. She's fine. Yeah.
No, I thought he'd be okay too, but there's that panic when you realize the whole bottle's gone.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, that's funny. But he hasn't done that since then.
No.
That is the good thing about having those kinds of safe things around the house, that you don't have to lock up the cabinet.
That's true. And I get a lot of questions, what's the controversy around, eating meat from people that are in the health field. And again, going back to Dr. Weston A. Price's research, he really cemented for us the truth. He was a dentist. I mean, he traveled all over the world and treated Native people, and noticed that in a lot of Native communities, they had these beautiful, wide palates, wide smiles, beautiful sets of teeth, all even, not crooked at all. But then when he came back to in the North America, he'd be, well, the palates are they seem to be shrinking and they're much smaller, and people's teeth are just not, nice anymore. And, everybody needs braces. This was the big thing when I was a kid. Everybody has to have braces. Well, and the idea being is that when the diet is appropriate to our physiology, and we're talking about 80% raw is considered healthy, but to make sure, and you've heard us allude a bit to Eat Right for your type by Dr. D'Adamo and his father's research. We have backed that up with 30 years of live blood analysis on top of that really justifies the fact that we need regular infusions of animal protein. And in fact, we help people who are not able to conceive actually make a baby quite quickly after getting their pH balanced, get them off the sugars, off the wheats, and the pasteurized dairy, and the grains. And then all of a sudden, like a miracle, things come back, hormones come back into a state of grace, the endocrine system balances, the pH balances in the system. I mean, it's also the route that we take when we're helping people eliminate cancer, no matter what stage they've been diagnosed with, is to just really clean up their regimen. In the Hahnemann College, where you're studying, I know, and I studied a few years back, we really follow this caduceus chart, which was developed by Stephen Decker and Marla Wilson. And they really talk about how we actually have to fortify the ground substance and take care of the biological systems through therapies, just like what we're talking about, making sure that people are eating right for their type, that they're exercising appropriate to their blood type. So O's need quite a bit of cardio, A's not so much. They do better with yoga being more of the Asian tradition, and B blood type somewhere in between. And ABs are a combination of A's and O's. Water intake, about 2.2 liters a day for women, 3 liters for men. And that's about half a gallon to 3/4 of a gallon. So I was hoping you were going to catch me up on that. And and just making sure that you,
a lot.
It is a lot. It is more than you think, isn't it?
Half your weight in or what is it? The general thing is half your weight in ounces, but that's not enough.
No, agreed. So, and then a good 7 to 8 hours of sleep during the summer months, and more like 9 or 10 in the winter. And then in our practice, as you know, we take people like an onion and we peel the emotional and physical shocks and traumas off in the order in which they've been assumed, using homeopathic principles, the law of nature, like cures, like we take a person right back to factory settings and birth. So we peel off the traumas, death of a grandfather or car accident, use of antibiotics during an event in the past, right back to vaccinations, and then birth trauma. Then we get to the 8 genetic miasms and we peel out those roots for chronic disease. The last jurisdiction that we highlight or work on really is the mind, as you said when we first started talking. That's the realm of beliefs and the kind of psychotherapeutic realm.
Yes. And one thing I was going to say, going back to Regimen, I think it was, it's the book, what is the water book that we read in our studies?
Dr. Batman-Yelage, Your Body's Many Cries for Water.
Yes, I'm so impressed you can say his last name so smoothly.
I'm fudging it. I'm sure he's going to call up and say, excuse me.
Oh, that's not how I say my
when
name.
I figure out how to say osteopath or what the hell name is his bone doctor?
No. We just saw one of those a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. What kind of doctor is he, Sarah?
He's a osteopath. I think it's osteopath. Orthopedic.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes.
You. I will be able to sleep tonight. Yeah.
The orthopedic surgeon, because my son decided to break his elbow.
He's 100% better now, isn't he?
He is. As the doctor put it, it's the best way you can break an bone. It was how he did it.
Yeah, and help healed by mama with bone broth.
Yes, exactly. He got a lot of that. But I was going to say in the book about the water, how he states about regimen and what you put in your body and stuff is really a love language. Because I'll tell my kids all the time, we eat things sometimes, even if we don't really like the taste of it very well, and mom's trying to figure out how to do this fermented thing to make it taste halfway decent, but you eat it because you know it's going to make you healthy and it's going to help you feel better. And I always tell them, the more you eat of that food, then the less you're going to be craving all those processed foods that are in the middle of the grocery store.
Let food be thy medicine.
Yes, but it really is a love language. You do it because you love yourself.
Yes, and I love the whole premise of the book that he went into the penal system. So he had captives really, and he fed them an increase of 80% water in their diets, and 80% of their suffering. So anything from allergies to arthritis, bowel issues, skin issues, improved. So I always joke, when patients first come to see us and they start their Heilkunst process, always say, please, if you don't, if there's nothing else that you apply, please increase your water intake, and you'll be amazed at how much better you feel. So a lot of people think it's the homeopathic remedies, and it is to a degree, but a large measure of improvement can occur just by drinking enough water.
Yeah, I actually found it interesting that it's probably been about 2 weeks now. My husband has always has to have breakfast, and it's usually some sort of cereal is what he has all the time, or oatmeal or something. And I mean, we've been married, it'll be 20 years in January, and he eats breakfast every day. Like when we go on vacation and the hotel has the free breakfast, I'm the one trying to sleep in. And he's like, come on, we got to go. Breakfast is going to be ending here in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll be downstairs. Come when you're ready. But I noticed, I said, are you just having water for breakfast? And he said, yeah. And he said, I have been for about 2 weeks or so. And I was like, or a week at that point. And I hadn't noticed yet. But I was like, he said, yeah, I just started. I don't know what made him start doing it, but he said he started doing that and realized that he was actually needed to be hydrated more. And so he's just been drinking water for breakfast the past couple of weeks. And he said he feels fine.
Wow.
So,
I find with a bit of interval fasting, Mondays and Fridays, when I'm not in clinic serving patients, I will generally not eat the whole of the day until about 3:30, 4. I mean, I stay hydrated and I'll have kombucha during the day, but I usually will wait until my dinner meal and then have a bite then. I find doing some interval fasting, I sleep better. I feel like give my body the opportunity to clear out any islets of organization of any toxicity in my body. And I've been doing that for about 4 years now. Now there's some weeks where I just feel like I need to eat those days, but most weeks I don't, probably about 80% of the time. And I feel a whole heck of a lot better when I give my body an opportunity to really burn through some of what's sitting in its, in the kidneys and the lymphatic system and liver and such.
yeah, so I don't know a whole bunch about fasting, but I know it seems like some of the health groups and stuff that I follow on Facebook are talking more about intermittent fasting, and it kind of like it's, like the new bone broth trend.
Yeah.
And so that, like, they were talking about, like the most simple way to do it from what I understood, and I didn't look into it a whole bunch, would be, to go about 12 hours out of the day to not eat and stuff. So there is something to that. It's just giving your body a rest.
Yeah, and there's lots of research coming in now, books being written by, medical doctors and otherwise, that it really speaks to the fact that, really, it's just like it's pockets, islets of debris really that end up in the system. But if you can create kind of enough heat, because you raise the metabolism when you're not furnishing it with regular 3 meals a day, and what happens, you create a bit of a fever function in the body, and it burns out really islets of organization in the lymphatic system, in the liver, and the urogenital system as well. I find that my mind is clear, my eyes are clear, and I find, now that I've reached the jolly age of 55, I just tend to feel, my Jeff jokes with me, goes, "You want to go out and have the blue plate special and we'll share it?" And I'm like, oh my God, like we're at this point in our age where we're, acting like my grandparents. Are you kidding me? Yeah. I still look like 24 in this 55-year-old carcass. Not sure how that happened, but there it is. Yeah. And I just find that, really focusing today, for example, Jeff made breakfast, and I should name Jeff Cornter is my husband of 16, 17 some years now. We've been in practice together. He was my clinical supervisor, so he's also a Heilkunst as well. Mm-hmm. So there I properly introduced him. But he made 2 farm fresh boiled eggs. We had a little bit of turkey on the side left over because it was Canadian Thanksgiving this past weekend. And then I had a piece of walnut sourdough with a bit of crunchy almond butter. And I'm talking like the smallest portion you can imagine. It was just, a small oval. And that's a perfect breakfast. And then for lunch, I just made a fermented shake with fermented coconut water.
Oh, yeah.
Kefir. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That sounds wonderful. Yeah, mm-hmm. I guess I'm fasting because I haven't eaten yet today.
Yeah, what time is it there? Because you're a couple of hours earlier than I am.
12:47. So I'm past the 12.
Okay, so you're intermittent fasting right there, girl.
I know. While we were talking about all this food, I was like, I'm kind of hungry, actually.
You're a graduate. Yes, you
hold
are.
on a second while I go get that jar of sauerkraut. I'll just eat that.
That's awesome.
I have some of the neighbor kids that come over and play. It's kind of sometimes I don't know quite what to do because I'll be making my kids like a shake or something or a smoothie or something with a kefir, and they'll be like, "Can I have one of those?" And I'm like, your body isn't used to all these probiotics. I don't want to send you home.
Go home and with a lot of diarrhea. Yeah, as the body cleanses and clears, you might want to have a brief conversation with a parent before that.
Your mom might not like that so much.
That's right.
But some of them I'll be like, "Here, have these veggie muffins that I make that have broccoli and carrot." Well, actually, now instead of using the broccoli, I just put green powder in it that has, 500 million veggies in it.
Wow, so they're like grasshopper muffins.
They are, but my kids love them. They're called veggie muffins because they originated from a recipe on a blog called Veggie Muffin, which I've totally forgot where they came from, so I can't cite my source.
Give credit, yes.
Whoever came up with them, brilliant. And I love telling people about them because they'll go, I say, "You want a veggie muffin?" My kids will be like, "Here, Mom made veggie muffins. You want some?" And they'll be like, And I particularly remember my nephews. They were probably about 13 or 14 at the time. And they're like, "Okay, Aunt Sarah." They took one, and then a little while later, "Hey, can we have another one of those veggie muffins?"
That's funny. So what's the basis of that recipe?
The recipe calls for like regular flour, but I use spelt flour for it. Once I get my sourdough starter ever started again, I'm going to try it with the doing a sourdough version of it. So, but sometimes every once in a while I'll do almond flour and, some of the more gluten-free, well-known flours, but lots of times I just use spelt. And then also now, whenever I do it, I found a good organic grass-fed beef bone broth powder from beef cows. And so I'll throw some scoops of that in there too, because my kids like smoothies and I can put all that stuff in there, but they've just this year, especially my daughter's gotten really picky. Like I'll make it the exact same way. And one day she likes it and one day she doesn't.
Yeah, I used to joke that this week is watermelon week. Next week, not so much.
My sister says her teenagers are still
it's like living with drunken schizophrenics. You never know what you're going to get.
I know. And my daughter's the type there, she'll like try to force it down, but so I'll be like, you liked it yesterday, come on.
Out of our biodynamic gardens, we'd pull these ginormous zucchinis. Oh my God, they were like the size of our thighs. And so you'd be grating zucchini. It was muffins, zucchini bread, zucchini. Oh man. But I mean, zucchini and chocolate together, like fair trade, dark Coco Camino chocolate. Oh my gosh. So yeah, we just make chocolate zucchini breads and muffins. And yeah, the kids they didn't even know the zucchini was in there. And so, what are these little strips of green, Mom?
I know. I know. I've made squash and zucchini and stuff, with dinner, and they did not like it at all. So if like, what was it? Oh, it was those veggie muffins. My wonderful mother-in-law, she came to me one day just a couple weeks ago, and she goes, Sarah, I'm so sorry. I think I ruined something. And I was like, what? And she said, I told your daughter that those veggie muffins that your mom make have squash and zucchini in them, and they were like the kids were totally grossed out with them. And I was like, oh, no, we're good. They don't have squash and zucchini in it. They have broccoli and carrots and banana in them.
So no lie has been told.
No lies have been told, because my kids like broccoli.
That's awesome.
But I was like, whatever, I could put zucchini in there and you would not even know.
That's right. Yeah, it was Jerry Seinfeld's wife years ago.
Just
came out with her cookbook. Oh man, I was all over that. I was making all kinds of, squash spaghetti, and they weren't on to me at all.
And I needed that. I was like, hide veggies and brownies.
Awesome book.
Check.
Yeah.
I can do that.
It was an awesome book. Yeah, I fooled them all over the place. Yeah, I felt vindicated. Yeah,
yes,
all those late nights that kept me up. I was like, yeah, you should see what kind of veggies I'm sneaking into you, babe.
It's all love. It's like the picture I sent you that my daughter made for me. I love you, Mom, even when you try to make us eat healthy things all the time.
I know, that was great. Thank you for sharing that with me. I love that. Yeah.
She knows. But those but I will say, since we've been working through the miasms and stuff, my kiddos are not chocolate fans.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, when we hit that full cancer miasm, the craving for chocolate just seems to lift. So it's trying to get the sweetness out of life as opposed to really rocking it with life itself, trying to do it through food. And I think, we know that sugar suppresses anger, and that farinaceous foods like toast and pastries, cookies, that kind of thing suppresses grief. Fear is suppressed by coffee. And you think about, this day and age, people mainline coffee, humongous coffees on a daily basis. Yeah. And so, the main idea is to, and I get people to get a little journal out and write down some of the feelings they're feeling before they engage with that food stuff. Just see if they can leverage to the surface what it is that they're trying to stuff down. Food being such a big form of nurturance. So we want to live to eat, not eat to live.
So another question I had is, what advice do you have for people, especially because I recommend the bone broth to like everyone. But I have a lot of wonderful friends that are, a lot of them are from India. And so due to religious reasons, they do not eat any meat or anything. So I never know what to say to them after that, except I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, because A blood types, typically more from Asia, India, can do, turkey and chicken. But if they are totally, not eating meat at all, that's a tough thing. Really, and we talk a lot about, and Dr. D'Adamo does this in his book, Eat Right for Your Type. He's said, to truly transcend your health, sometimes you have to look at religious beliefs
Yes.
as well. And it's the toughest thing. I mean, I've had people who are staunch, and in fact, their health gets hooked on the fact that they won't eat meat, and you'll see they get a large distance, but they're craving sugars like crazy, and in many cases alcohol as well. I mean, I've served patients that are yogis that have told me, I'm never going to eat meat, it's cruel to animals, and I'm like, but you're cruelly consuming sugar and alcohol on a regular basis. Like, which is more healthy? Really, like, you have to kind of get down, and we should be in a position where we're open-minded enough to transcend religious beliefs, because we can experiment. And then once we know, oh my gosh, I mean, I went on a vegetarian diet, and the worst thing a B blood type like me can do is eat a lot of beans in their diet. So I have to be careful in Mexico, because that's not the right food for a B blood type. In fact, it will destroy their gut, and it's very, very, very painful, actually, because you can't masticate or break them down at all, metabolize them. And so that belief, before I came to this system of medicine, when I didn't know, that I should be eating more of a vegetarian diet, that would be healthy for me. Oh my gosh, I was waking up all through the nights. My blood sugars were crashing. I felt like a bag of crap. I was so sick, and I couldn't figure out, like, this was supposed to be, the most healthy route to go.
Oh, yeah. See, I haven't paid attention to the beans. I've always hated beans.
Oh yeah, there
Except
you
for green
go.
beans. I like green beans.
Yeah, me
But
too.
chili, a big food down here too. Tomato based,
Yeah.
of course.
And I think that the kidney beans are the only beans that B blood type like us can actually get away with
Oh, okay.
metabolizing. I think it's the only one.
Yeah, but I've always been like, if you put beans in my chili, sorry, I won't eat it.
Even kidney beans.
Yep, no, no beans,
Okay.
no beans.
Not going past the, yeah.
No, because what's popular down here, the name just flew out of my, baked beans.
Yes.
Baked beans,
Yeah.
but
My grandmother from the East Coast makes the most mind-blowing baked beans you've ever had in your life. She uses the larger ones, and I'm not really sure. They're more like a purpley color, and they're larger and meatier, and she does them with bacon and maple syrup.
oh
Oh my
yes.
God.
Yes,
Yeah.
my everyone tells me my mother-in-law makes the best baked beans, but she still loves me even though
Yeah.
I won't eat her baked
My
beans.
grandmother's 92 and doesn't wear glasses. Can you imagine?
Oh, no, I can't
Yeah. Hopefully
imagine
I'm
that.
sucking from her gene pool.
Yeah, no joke.
No, she's still making baked beans to this day. She's
Oh,
a
that's
marvel.
awesome. That's awesome.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I so
Thank
appreciate,
you.
and I would like to invite you back to do another session. I've had a blast with you, and we can choose other topics. And yeah,
Yeah,
riveting conversation, at least from my perspective.
mine too.
Um,
I don't know what everyone else thinks, but I like
I
it.
know. So yeah, when you and I get together, there's always some, fun and frolic in the realm of health. So I appreciate
There
so
is.
much you taking time out of your day and your
You bet.
family's time and day. Usually you're doing so much beautiful volunteering at your kids' school and such. So yeah,
Yep, I got to
I
do that
know that
tomorrow.
they are, yeah,
I'm
very
sorry, I
loved
get to do
and
that tomorrow.
participatory. Yeah.
I volunteered. I don't have to.
Well said. All right. Well, it's been such a pleasure, and thank you again. And I
Thank
look
you.
forward to connecting in this way again on different topics.
Me too. Me too. Till
All
next
right.
time.
Okay. Bye for now.